So I put down that our not winning the competition and going to the Horse of the Year show, I put that down to a little moment when he got very upset, rather than there were 4 people dressed as women, 2 of whom were men, doing the competition. And the judge we had no comments about our dress or our attire. He just concentrated on how clean the horses were. So...
we talked about the when that was, wasn't it? When was the Gay Games?
That was in 2000, Millennium.
I think it was Millennium, because it was the Millennium. Was it Millennium Fund or something like that?
Yeah, it was the National Lottery Millennium Fund or something. And you knew Eamon from work.
Yes.
He was the head of arts and events here.
And they had a committee. They put a committee together to sort of work out how they were going to organise the Gay Games and what we would do, what sports we'd have. It was amazing just how many people were actually doing different things in the area. There's a whole set of footballers who, I mean, they just sort of...
Sorry, I just remembered something. Zoe, the two events that Roy helped to organise, one was the dressage to music demonstration, and then there was it's like a master class for show jumping, and you got this, I can't remember her surname, but Zoe,
yeah.
who is very posh, a really top class person who'd agreed to come down and do it because
she's an ambassador for show jumping. So she wanted to do it because it was gay. She wanted to do it. And her dad is really, I don't know whether he still does it, but he organises like the British show jumping team. So at national Olympic levels, he's up there, and she's a great rider. And she was really keen to come and do it.
He didn't want her to come and do it because the weekend before, I think, or sometime just prior to that, it had been Brighton Pride, and they'd been down there, and her father just found it all too much to cope with, and was very anxious about her going into the East End to another gay event. But she had a whale of a time, and I remember she phoned up because she was a little late. We were getting a little bit anxious about
she got a
turning
bit lost
up.
Too.
And she said, "I'm driving down such and such a road. I think I'm nearby. There's all these women playing rugby."
So I must be close.
Oh, I must be close. She really enjoyed it.
But actually, her father was on a committee. I remember that at the time. He was on. She talks about her father being on a committee because, and I won't mention his name because I don't think it's appropriate. But somebody who is a 3-day event rider, which is when you do dressage, show jumping, and cross country. And at the top levels, the cross country courses are death-defying. They're just, the people and the horses have to be so brave just to get around anything, just to jump the first fence. And one of those riders, who's a top international rider, was in the press at the time as having been caught with a rent boy. So, and he's married. So her dad was on some committee that was looking at whether or not he brought the profession into disrepute by being in the gutter press with all of this stuff going on. So I think her dad was quite. There was quite a lot going on for him at the time, which affected the way that she did it. But she was, she was very cool about it and said she wanted to do it. So and she did. It was great, and it really helped. It was an opportunity to share all of this really nice, beautiful horses, all groomed beautifully and turned out beautifully, and we were all in our togs, the proper riding stuff, so that people can actually see because it was a gay event, but the local community were encouraged to come to it, and it was a lovely summer's day, and it was on the playing fields in front of the town hall, beautiful setting, and it was a really nice event. But when we were at the committee meetings, of course, we met Jackie, who is Jackie Logan, who is one of the dance people around the borough, and discovered from her that there was this whole circuit of same-sex dancing that's going on across London, and that up the road in the town centre there was a studio with a teacher who is again in the faculty, in the ballroom community. She's on the faculties and writes the technical books for the faculties for ballroom and Latin dancing, and she's a local resource that we've got and didn't know about. So we started going to see Janet, learning. I think we first went to. Didn't we go to, because Heather and Adas were running there. There was Janet's class, but also Heather used to do her block.
Yeah.
She used to teach in blocks, where she would do a block of 5 weeks on one dance, and then she'd change it and do something else. So we discovered going to Janet's that Heather was doing her classes as well. So twice a week we go and do the classes, and then discovered the Rivoli, and started to go to the Rivoli, and then we got it. Then I think Jackie rang us up and said, "Why don't you compete at the Rivoli?" So we entered in D, and I think we came 4th in the first year. And then we entered in the following year we entered in C. I think we entered in D, and I think they put us up to C.
Well, we made a decision early because we would be I'd never danced before in that way, but because we were coming into it as more mature people.
Oh yeah, that's what I should have said. As well as the riding when I was a child, one of the things I did was I danced, and my sister used to go to tap dancing, and we had, again, working class community, but this amazing teacher who did shows. So I got to be the only boy in the show, singing on the lamppost at the corner of the street, George Formby or something like that. So it was a bit like Billy Elliot, but 20 years before that. So it was actually quite. There was a lot of name calling and a lot of bullying and a lot of stuff going on at the time, which I just ignored because I absolutely loved doing it, and there was absolutely no way that I was going to be put off from doing it. But when I got to be 10 or 11, and I was going to grammar school, my parents persuaded me that it should stop, to concentrate on the studying. But to discover much later that there was this resource and we could do this stuff, and it was something that we could do together, but also in the gay community, and it's exercise and it's social and it's pleasurable, and
lots of dressing up.
Always good for a night out. So, and then we discovered as well Lauriston, which is a venue in Scotland near Glasgow, and they do Dancerama around Easter time every year, which is a lesbian and gay event for a week where you go and there are lessons all day, and then there are every night there's a different theme for a party. So of course it's just more and more dressing up. And actually one of the years we fostered at the time. We used to have foster children, young people, and Leon was going to go in. He didn't want to go initially, and because we'd organised that he would go to other foster carers for respite while we went away. And then I went up into the loft and started to bring down all of the causes to go, all of these frocks to go to, and he looked at all of the sequins and the glitz, and it's like, oh, I want to come. and what was amazing was by the time he got to the Friday, we'd been there all week, and by the time we got to Friday, and that was the big party, and he was just dragged out. He just couldn't do it. He's like, oh no, I'm going as a boy tonight. I just can't do it anymore. I've just had enough. Oh God, yes. This was through Albert Kennedy Trust, which was, so it was foster caring, but for teenagers. So when children run away, usually they've run away. Their parents, the usual case was that their parents couldn't cope with them being gay. he was precocious as a child. He was
Well, he was,
getting out of
he was
his.
climbing out of the window.
He was
at
climbing
15
out
and going up to Soho. And
14
stuff,
and
so no wonder his
15.
parents weren't coping
No,
very
his
well.
mother.
you
I mean,
know.
he'd put. I mean, I used to do this as a child. Pretend you're in bed and then go out. But he'd make the bed, put the pillow under the bedclothes to make it look as if he was in the bed, and then climb out of the window and go up to heaven or clubs or whatever at 14 or 15. And then one night, I don't remember how it happened, but they discovered that he wasn't there. He was supposed to be staying with a friend, I think, or something like that, and then they discovered he wasn't at the friend's, and so they had to call the police, and then they started to go through his diary, and then they discovered that he was gay from the diary, and he was Turkish origin. So they packed him off back to, I think it was Turkish Cypriot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they packed him off back to Cyprus. And then they got a phone call from the grandmother saying, "He's gotta come home. He's
just copped off
with one of the villagers." So it's like the whole community's in disarray because the villagers now having an affair with my grandchild. So you've got to get him back. So he had to come back, and then he ran away, and somehow. Oh God, it's a bit tacky actually. He was going on the internet and some sort of older person had met him on the internet. And I think he knew he was older. And Leon didn't think that it was anything wrong with that. The trusts were very concerned because of the age difference between the two of them. But I think the person did introduce him to Albert Kennedy. He was
well seedy.
But he was
well
old.
seedy.
Really
We went round to see him once, and it was his house was a bit like he'd done it out like a bit like an arcade, So it's all video games and all this kind of stuff, and you just thought whether anything more is happening, but this house is full of 14 and 15-year-olds. It was really creepy.
Well, I was born in 1950. And the law changed in 1967 because homosexuality was decriminalised. So I was 17 when that happened, which meant that it was still illegal because at that point there was not the age of consent had not been, so it was 21 was the sort of legal age at that time. In the area that I lived, as I say, Chesterfield, I remember that there was a pub that people had talked about where men who liked other men would go. I think it was just a bar, just one of the little bars in the pub, but the pub burnt down. So you got a sense of the direction, and in those days everything it was. This was the time when Dirk Bogarde made the film about blackmail, and it was criticised for doing that, doing such an overtly homosexual role. So there was a clear indication about the direction in which your sexuality should go and not go. And as I said, around the horses stuff, I met someone a girl who was at the school next door to where I was at school. When we were both 16, we changed schools. So we moved house. So I moved from one grammar school to another, and she had been taken out of private school and moved to the school next door because they were single-sex schools. But we met each other because we were both arriving at the schools next door to each other at the same time and being sort of part of an out group, really. And she had a pony, and the pony had a foal, and that foal was then 3 or 4 years old, and was a bit of a handful. They couldn't do anything with it, so I went up to help her school the pony, and then we started to go out together and eventually we got married at 19.